It is Monday, January 13th, 2020. It is 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and so you know what time it is. It's time for a little bit of coin metal. It was very educational. Get your ass kicked at Jiu-Jitsu Monday. Certainly did get my ass kicked. Did not make it into the early class. I can only imagine how long my alarm went off before it finally just said, you know what, he's not going to get up. But I did not make it. Just been having a few other disruptions in my my normal routine that it's been causing me to miss some of the things that I really like to do, you know. And so, unfortunately, we did not get to any jiu-jitsu this morning. But I did manage to get in this evening, and of course it's as intense, if not a little bit more, because it's a Jiu-Jitsu 2 class, not Jiu-Jitsu 1. Even though when I'm doing the morning class, the morning open mat, it's not really an open mat. It's kind of an open mat, but at the same time it's not. It's hard to explain. Like, it's an open mat in that you're free to do whatever you want, but you know, if I'm there, typically I'm working whatever my teammate has decided to work on for the day. And so, you know, as far as progression, it seems like the stuff we cover, it seems like the instructor, or my teammate rather, because he's not really an instructor per se, although technically he could be one because he's a purple belt. But nonetheless, it seems to me the progression that he's following is a little more consistent, and I don't know how to put that. Like, if all of the instructors were kind of on the same page with regard to the materials that they were covering, it would be a little bit more similar to what goes on the Monday class. But honestly, I'm happy the way it is, because I get a new flavor with every instructor. Each instructor has their own style, and they have things that they tend to hit on a little bit more than other things. And so, you know, I think it's pretty cool to have that, you know, to have like 4 or 5 different instructors that are all working on a different part of your game, kind of helping you, and it really is up to you to find the things that work for you the best, and work on them the most, you know, or even work on the things that you're weak. You know, there's several things that I could be doing a lot more time with, specifically like takedowns, standing takedowns. I tend to like sweeps and you know, like valley drops and stuff like that for the takedown. But I feel like I'm more capable with, you know, a regular old takedown than I give myself credit for. And so, you know, again, that's something that I feel like I really do need to work on, is just, you know, the mechanics of the standing takedowns, and working them around to an advantage for yourself, you know. But yeah, so as far as what we were covering today, we covered takedowns. We covered one specific one, and I can't remember the name for it. But it's starting from 2 grips, one at the tricep of your opponent, one at the collar, and you lift the tricep arm, and you step in on the same side that you got the collar grip on. And I've got to wonder if maybe pushing out with that arm, you know, having that arm straight might not also help. You know, just the mechanics of straightening one arm and pulling the other arm in, and what that does to the torso of your opponent. I think that would probably help that movement along quite a bit. But anyway, you rotate the elbow in towards the middle of your chest, and up under the tricep of your opponent, and then you throw them over that shoulder. And so that's the word I've been looking for. Throws, not necessarily takedowns, throws. I feel like I could be doing a lot more throws, and unfortunately I don't do them. So I don't know. I think maybe that's something I'm going to be working on a little bit more than I have been. Like I said, I think that I've got pretty good potential with regard to a throwing game. I'm pretty strong, so it's just a matter of getting my body into the right orientation with my opponent to execute the throw. And we did that throw, and then we also did a fireman carry throw, and I thought that one was just like bomb right there. I mean, I feel like I can elevate some people with that one, and I like it most because it doesn't seem like it's an incredibly like strength related throw, so much as kinetics. It's like you get that good grip on your opponent's tricep, and you bring your knee down to down to between their legs. And I was thinking about this, where like if you weren't able to get your opponent like in the position on the back of your neck, that like if they stalled you somehow, like maybe they were too tall, or you crouched down too low and they were able to get contact on the other side, or they've got a good grip on you. I was thinking about it, and it seemed to me that you're like in the perfect position to just reach, just like disengage, and like you're supposed to be like reaching down around the hamstring to throw your opponent up onto your shoulder and then over, right? Well, what if you get stalled at that, and instead you let go of the collar grip, and you do a gable grip around the thigh of your opponent and come up, just try and stand up from right there. I mean, because it seemed to me that'd be a good setup for a single leg. I don't even think you would have to get to a full standing position. That if you were able to get down there and right at that spot with your opponent, that you could just gable grip it and then go push forward. Just lean your chest forward, and that would be enough pressure to cause your opponent to push over and fall over on that side. So it's not really a throw per se, but certainly a takedown. Anyway, but yeah, so we had a lot of fun with that, and I got to work with a really, really skilled player today, and it's just showing me that I really need to work with him a lot more, because he's so fucking good. And I try to give him as quick a feed as possible, so he's getting in as many reps as he can, because I know I don't really have any ability to resist him. He's just really, really strong, really, really fast, and he knows how to jerk it. And I don't know if that's the right way to put it. But there's a thing like when you're doing things like breaking somebody's grip off your collar or something, that there's a way you do it. There's a way you jerk the person's hand in combination with everything else you're doing to break that grip. And there's a lot of mechanics to it in breaking the grip. You want to step back with the leg to away from your opponent, at the same time you're breaking their grip or addressing their grip with your hands. And like I said, he's so smooth that the way he does it requires so little effort. But he's able to jerk me up off the ground enough to displace me from a turtle position and shit. I'm just like, okay, I outweigh this guy by about 60 pounds, and he's getting me flipped over like I'm nothing. Like I'm a paper plate. I definitely got to work with this guy some more. And I don't know, I have a lot of trouble with it too, because I feel intimidated by him. It's like he's so good that it's like I don't want to roll with him, because I know I'm not going to I feel in my mind that he's just going to dominate on me, and the only advantage that I really have on him is strength. And 9 times out of 10, it works out exactly that way. And what bugs me the most about it is he's so fucking casual. It's like all this shit's going on between my ears. I'm sure none of it's going on for him. It's just it's an everyday occurrence for him. And I'm just like, and I feel weird because I'm self-conscious about it. But, the fact of the matter is the guy has put in a lot of fucking work, and he's really fucking skilled. So, like I said, there's that mild intimidation quotient, but I definitely need to be working with him more, because I know that I can only get something out of it, that I could only learn something by doing it. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw down with some music. And of course, we are going to do the body count. You know we are. I saw something the other day, and I'm not going to mention his name, but I will say that he is the mouth of MMA. Like, if you know anything about MMA, you know who the mouth is. The mouth. I mean, there's a lot of mouths out there, but I mean, like consistently, like his bread and butter is his mouth. Made a altcoin recommendation the other day. And I don't know about you, but I remember the last time we had alt season, and we were having professional boxers coming out, and we were having fucking entertainers coming out, and we were having actors coming out. They were all talking about their favorite altcoin project and how they're going to go all in on it. Yeah, well, that's the kind of feeling that it started with, was just a celebrity saying, "Hey, I think this coin is really great," or "You should buy this coin. You're going to make a lot of money on it." I mean, they've learned, because the SEC's come out and sued enough people. But in any case, when you start seeing signs like that, people that you wouldn't necessarily assume have any experience with cryptocurrency are coming out and making buy recommendations, that's a pretty good sign that alt season is in. And so with that, let's go ahead and throw down with our first dance. And as far as that one, I think it's this one. This should be it. Bloodlust, first dance here on Coin Metal.
Since the beginning of time, humans have killed each other because they.
And that was Disturbed with Indestructible. And so I did a little scrounging around, did a little digging here and there, and managed to cobble together some interesting stuff. And it's always easy because got my fingers out there. I got a half decent Twitter feed going on, and I know how to work the Google, and so things tend to come up. Anyway, and so this first thing here I got, I think this is really interesting because we're in this digital era. And our digital record is being used in a wide variety of ways to incriminate us and or scrutinize us in other ways, ways that we had never anticipated possible. And the backlash for this is that not only are our records permanent, so are the records of all of those who are investigating us. And so here it is. It's on zerohedge.com. This is, wait a minute. Hold on. Let's see if we can actually get it off the hill. If we can, without a bunch of turn your fucking blocker shit off, then we'll roll with it. And it's looking like that's the case. And so here we go. And this is actually on thehill.com. Will alleged CIA misbehavior set Julian Assange free? This is by James C. Goodale, opinion contributor, and this is authored on January 13th, 2020 at 10:32 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And so, yeah. Oh, so yes, penis. A few days before Christmas, Julian Assange testified to a Spanish court that a Spanish security company, UC Global SL, acting in coordination with the CIA, illegally recorded all of his actions and conversations, including with his lawyers, and streamed them back in real time to the CIA. He will, at the end of February, make a similar complaint to a British extradition court about the CIA's alleged misbehavior. Will such misbehavior, if proven, set Julian Assange free? The Daniel Ellsberg case may be instructive. You may recall that after the U.S. Supreme Court's decision in the Pentagon Papers case, Ellsberg was indicted under the Espionage Act for leaking Pentagon documents to the New York Times and the Washington Post. After the trial commenced in San Francisco, it was brought to the judge's attention that the, quote, White House plumbers broke into the office of Ellsberg's psychiatrist. Based on the information and other complaints of the government misbehavior, including the FBI's interception of Ellsberg's telephone conversations with a government official, Judge Williams Matthew Byrne decided that the case should be dismissed with prejudice because the government acted outrageously. For similar reasons, the case against Assange should be dismissed if it reaches U.S. courts. The, quote, plumbers were a covert group formed by the Nixon White House to stop leaks of information from the government, such as the Pentagon Papers. They are notorious for their burglary at the White House at the Watergate complex, which led to former President Nixon's downfall. Approximately 9 months before the Watergate break-in, the plumbers, led by former CIA agent E. Howard Hunt, burglarized a psychiatrist's office to find information that could discredit Ellsberg. The CIA also was involved in the break-in. The CIA was involved with the break-in. It prepared a psychiatric profile of Ellsberg, as well as an ID kit for the plumbers, including driver's licenses, social security cards, and disguises consisting of red wigs, glasses, and speech alteration devices. Additionally, the CIA allowed Hunt and his sidekick G. Gordon Liddy to use 2 CIA safe houses in the D.C. area for meetings and storage purposes. Clearly, the CIA knew the plumbers were up to no good. It is unclear whether the CIA knew Ellsberg was the target, but it would not have taken much to figure it out. The Spanish newspaper El País, El País, my apologies, I imagined an R in there. Let me see if we can make a minor adjustment here. Hold on. Thank God for background music. Need a little bit of illumination for a mission here. Let's see if I can recover that. Oh, where the hell did I put it? Oh, there we go. Hold on. I'll be right back. Minor adjustment. Alright. Let's see. The Spanish newspaper El País broke the story that UC Global invaded Assange's privacy at the Ecuadorian embassy and shared its surveillance with the CIA. It demonstrated step-by-step, document-by-document, UC Global's actions and its contacts with the CIA. UC Global reportedly installed cameras throughout Assange's space in the embassy, including his bathroom, and captured Assange's every word and apparently live-streamed it, giving the CIA a free TV show of Assange's daily life. After reading El País's series, you would have to be a dunce not to believe that the CIA didn't monitor Assange's every move at the Ecuadorian embassy, including trips to the bathroom. Ecuador granted Assange asylum in their embassy for 7 years after he jumped bail in London to avoid extradition to Sweden for allegedly raping 2 Swedish women. Those charges are now dismissed, by the way. If you can believe it, Ecuador had hired UC Global to protect the Ecuadorian embassy and Assange. Not surprisingly, the CIA later made UC Global its spy to surveil Assange. When there was a challenge of administration in Ecuador, or a change of administration in Ecuador, Assange's asylum was withdrawn, and he was immediately arrested by British police at the request of U.S. officials. The United States subsequently indicted him for violating the Espionage Act for publishing the very same information published roughly contemporaneously by the New York Times, The Guardian, El País, Le Monde, and Der Spiegel. Assange already was subject to a sealed indictment in the United States for computer hacking. The behavior of UC Global and the CIA seems indistinguishable from the government's behavior in the Ellsberg case, which a federal judge found to have, quote, offended a sense of justice, and incurably infected prosecution of the case. Accordingly, he concluded that the only remedy to ensure due process and the fair administration of justice was to dismiss Ellsberg's case, quote, with prejudice, meaning that Ellsberg could not be retried. Can anything be more offensive to a, quote, sense of justice than an unlimited surveillance, particularly of lawyer-client conversations, live-streamed to the opposing party in a criminal case? The alleged streaming unmasked the strategy of Assange's lawyers, giving the government an advantage that is impossible to remove. Short of dismissing Assange's indictment with prejudice, the government will always have an advantage that can never be matched by the defense. The usual remedy for warrantless surveillance is to exclude any illegally obtained information from the trial, but that remedy is inapplicable here. The government's advantage in surveilling Assange is not the acquisition of tangible evidence, but rather intangible insights into Assange's legal strategy. There is no way, therefore, to give Assange a fair trial, since his opponents will know every move he will make. When Assange begins his extradition hearing, this will be part of his argument, that the CIA's misbehavior violates his human rights by depriving him of his right to a fair trial. The CIA will no doubt attempt to trump this argument by defending the surveillance on grounds of national security. This may be easier said than done, however. It is one thing to say that the CIA can engage in surveillance abroad for its own intelligence-gathering purposes. It is another to say it can listen to the private lawyer-client communications of a person against whom the U.S. government has an open criminal investigation. More to the point, it does not seem immediately clear why eavesdropping on conversations of legal strategy protects U.S. national security. In my experience, in national security cases, I led the New York Times lawyers in the Pentagon Papers case. Every time the government is backed into a corner in such cases, it will simply serve up a defense of, quote, national security, because it is difficult to defend against such an assertion, and the government consequently has the ability to trump every competing argument. Violation of Assange's fair trial rights is only one of many arguments he can make to defeat extradition. For example, he can argue that his health is so poor that he cannot survive extradition. His father has said Assange will die in prison, and the United Nations Special Rapporteur overseeing his case, Nils Melzner, believes Assange's mental acuity has been damaged irreparably through, quote, psychological torture. Most importantly, Assange can assert that the action of the U.S. government is for its own political benefit. It is standard law that extradition be refused when a country seeks it in order to prosecute a political offense. In this case, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo has said that the U.S. government would seek to shut down Assange for using, quote, free speech values against us, and characterized Assange's organization, WikiLeaks, as, quote, non-state hostile intelligence service. That statement does not sound like the government wishes to convict Assange for violating U.S. national security laws as much as to get rid of Assange himself for disclosing embarrassing information that is detrimental to American diplomatic and political interests. Whether the actions of the U.S. government takes whether the actions the U.S. government takes against Assange constitute, quote, political offense will be hotly contested. Former State Department and National Security Council legal advisor John Bellinger recently predicted on NPR that, quote, battle royal because Assange and his lawyers will argue very forcefully that Trump administration is coming after him for political reasons. No doubt there also will be, quote, a battle royal regarding whether the CIA can, with impunity, surveil Assange's actions and conversations, including those with his lawyers, and then live stream those to its offices without being heavily penalized for its behavior. It would seem the only appropriate remedy for such outrageous conduct would be to set Assange free. Yeah. Let me see if... Oh, wow. There's a lot of comments on this. I think we might just taste just a couple. First speaker says, John Kennedy was right. We need to shatter the CIA into 1,000 pieces and scatter it to the winds. They are evil, they have always been evil, and they will continue to be evil in the future. We would all be better off without them. Natalie says, well, evil, yes, but shatter it? Maybe restructure and retrain and rehire. Stop allowing private contractors to work with them doing the dirty work they cannot get away with doing. Time to reduce funding and give it to an agency that deserves it, more like the FBI. Pfft, yeah, whatever. That's another organization that's used for political purposes. Red Fox replies, Bobby Kennedy wanted to do away with the FBI. Recent revelations by Horowitz point to an organization that is straight outside their mandated boundaries also. Never forget that the FBI was born in corruption. And Money Griffin replies, some feel that John Kennedy's comments led to his death, perhaps Booby Kennedy too. These agencies have done good, but they are supposed to be answerable to the president, and they don't appear to be that doesn't appear to be the case anymore. The left keep trying to say we aren't a republic and assign powers to those they favor, like with Pelosi, who they fancy as prime minister now. The Democrat Shampeachment lumbers on and bounces between urgency, no time for established practice, and delay. 4 weeks now, Republicans sent Clinton's articles 15 minutes after voting to impeach him, as they see fit. Pelosi is simply trying to limit Trump's ability to perform his elected duties. Janine Pirro covered that in her opening, and the short video is up at What Finger News, an awesome replacement to Drudge since he wandered left, so check it out. In the middle near the top, blah blah blah. November 3rd, we must do our prayerful, solemn, sad, and somber duty and vote out the Democrats. To me it seems like you should be looking for maybe better Democrats. If you are a Democrat, you don't necessarily have to give up your party, but you do have to take a really fucking good look at the ones that you've been putting into office and say, hey, are these people representing my interests? What are they actually doing in office? What's on their agenda? Let's check it out. You've got the fucking internet, so it's not like you have the excuse of being an uninformed voter anymore. It's like, if it means jack shit to you, use the fucking internet. I can guarantee you there is a more fit Democrat, somebody that actually reflects your values in your district. Really, if you're a Democrat, if that's the party that you ride with, hey man, be a fucking Democrat. But if you're a Democrat that you've got in office isn't being a Democrat according to what you consider a Democrat to be, you gotta vote that motherfucker out. That's it. You want people in there that represent you, your values from your state, from your district of your state. That's why that shit exists. that is a representative of you. And if you are like dallying about and fucking off your duty there, then you really have no business complaining on it. I mean, I write in Ron Paul because I love Ron Paul. I think Ron Paul would have been an excellent president, and I will continue to write him in because I still think he could be an excellent president, and that's that. But that's me. That's my values. To me, he represents an American president, and so that I want an American president in the presidency. I don't necessarily want a Republican. I don't necessarily want a Democrat. I don't necessarily want a Libertarian. I want a fucking American in there. And if they aren't an American, I don't want them in there. If they're a communist, I'm sorry, man. We're not a communistic country. We're not even a democracy. We are a republic. And so trying to finger shit about, This is the kind of shit that you get when you do that kind of thing. When you hand the power of the purse from the Congress, it's like they've foisted off all of their like real responsibility. See, they're supposed to be the ones that vote whether your kids go to fucking war, right? But they gave that up. They gave that duty up to the quote-unquote commander-in-chief, the president. That's not supposed to be his duty, not according to our form of government. That's supposed to be your representative of your district saying, yes, I want to send Bobby and Jill and little Timmy off to war to die for this cause. They're supposed to have that responsibility because it's their ass if that happens. If little Timmy doesn't come back from war, and you can't look at that war and say, what, my son or my daughter, that was a good war. I mean, come on now. If you can't say that about the war, you're probably going to say, you know what, that motherfucker sent my kid to war for fucking nothing. And you're going to vote that person out. Because you hold them accountable for that shit. That's how the system is supposed to work. But they've handed that duty off to the president. So, he's the one that says, we go to war. They get selective about whether or not they want to enforce the declaration of war, as part of their duty. That's why they're trying to remove his emergency powers just for going to war with Iran. We just want to stop that shit. We don't want to do anything about all the covert missions that are going on right now in Syria and Libya and Iraq and all over the fucking place. No. We want to keep all that shit going, but we just want to neutralize his emergency powers because it might actually send little Timmy and Jill to war, and we don't want to do that because then we'll be held accountable. But, they did the same thing with regard to the purse strings. Supposed to be managed by the Congress and the U.S. Treasury. And they handed it all off to a private bank, the Fed. The Federal Reserve is a private bank. So anyway, this is the kind of thing that you get when you allow that to happen. And I want to make sure that this is actually from Zero Hedge and not from RT, and that we can actually get to it. Alright, we can. It's on RT.com. We are going to have a horrible time, Jim Rogers tells boom bust as global debt skyrockets. And this is authored on January 10th, 2020 at 10:46. No indication of AM or PM or time zone. Shame on you, RT. And who the fuck wrote this thing? Oh, it's not giving me a specific person. Anyway, central banks around the world will continue printing money as long as it's necessary, says legendary investor Jim Rogers. He talks to RT's Boom Bust about the state of the global economy and what could be over the horizon. Never before in world history have interest rates been so low, Rogers says. The U.S. Central Bank, the Fed, increased its balance sheet by over 500% in less than a decade. Japan's central bank prints money and buys ETFs and bonds. Quote, "These are astonishing statements and facts. This is insanity. That's not how sound economic systems are supposed to work. According to the trader, in 2008 we had problems because of too much debt." However, since then the debt has skyrocketed everywhere, and it's going higher and higher. We're going to have a horrible time when this all comes to an end. Eventually the market is going to say, quote, "We don't want this. We don't want to play this game anymore, and we don't want your garbage paper anymore," Rogers explained. When that happens, the central banks will print even more and buy even more assets, quote, "and that's when we will have very serious problems. We are all going to pay a horrible price someday, but in the meantime, it's a lot of fun for a lot of people." Yeah. Well, it's true. You know, we are having a lot of fun out here. But at some point or another, I believe that monetary value, whatever scarce amount is still left in fiat currencies, is actually going to be looking for vehicles that it can be retained in, that are separate and outside of the central banking system. And when you really think about it, what qualifies as that? Cryptocurrency. That's right. That's right. You came here early. You're still here early. I know everybody wants to hear that, and you know some of you just suspect it. But yeah, you're still here early. I mean, I kind of... It still weirds me out is that people, by and large, still do not understand what cryptocurrencies are all about. I mean, they still talk about quote-unquote blockchain. Blockchain! We'll put it on a blockchain. What the fuck do you mean? What blockchain? Which one? There are 5,000 of them out there. Take your fucking pick. You don't even know. You're just like, oh, I want to put it on a blockchain. It's like a buzzword. It's like turnkey. 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 Yeah, it's a turnkey opportunity. You just got to turn the key, man. People want to buy into shit that's got a quick return. And there's nothing wrong with that tendency. The fact of the matter is there is no fucking quick return anymore. Not real return. I mean, you got snipers and you got scalpers and all that other shit, and that's not fucking quick return. That's, in my opinion, that's just fucking off. You know what I mean? You might as well just walk down the street with a sledgehammer and start whacking fucking meters. I mean, realistically, that's about the equivalent of what you're doing. You know, I mean, it's like, it's gonna be there. It's pretty much fixed. And you can just like nibble. You know, but eventually, I mean, that gets a little tiring, a little boring. But in the meantime, it is kind of fun. But anyway, I think that in the longer term, when people are looking really at another vehicle for their monetary value that just doesn't just fucking depreciate because it isn't being printed like fucking oxygen molecules from a plant. You know, it's not something you can guarantee or whatever. But I think that when you're looking at it in terms of U.S. dollars on one side, that you know they're getting printed off. Actually, they're not U.S. dollars; they're Federal Reserve notes. There's no correlation between the dollar and what exactly we're circulating as quote unquote dollars. But with that in mind, I got this article here, and I don't tend to cover these articles because they make specific recommendations or specific mentions of specific coins. And I like to keep it open because there's always the issue of liability. You know, if I express too much bias for any one particular coin, and people use that as some sort of judgment as whether or not they're going to buy or sell or whatever, and they lose money. Oh my God, if I made any statements about guarantees, oh yeah, it's going to go up, even saying that can get me fucking sanctioned by the SEC or some shit like that. I mean, like, they are going to get serious about that. If you've got any, like, a significant amount of capital, they are going to be coming after your fucking money. I was talking about this with somebody else at one point, that I really anticipate in the future that things like mining farms, the big ass warehouse full of fucking ASIC boxes, I think that level of mining is probably going to go away. And the reason I believe that is, number one, I think that miners are going to get even cheaper and even faster than they are now. And in addition to that, I'm also anticipating that regulators are going to try and regulate, but they are going to stick to stuff that they can actually regulate. That actually has a justifiable cost to investigate and prosecute. It's like they're not going to go after Jimmy Joe running 5 little ASIC boxes in his garage or whatever. They're not going to be fucking with him because he doesn't represent a high enough concentration of wealth to bother with. He's going to go broke just dragging him to the fucking courtroom. The lawyer that he's got on retainer or whatever is going to break him before he even gets to the courtroom. So the point in going after him, it's not really there. It's a matter of incentive. But somebody who's running 30,000 ASIC boxes 24/7 for a couple years, and you notice that their outflow of coins is a lot lower than their inflow of coins, i.e. the chances of them having a significant amount of reserves is probably pretty high. Maybe they're competing with a miner that you've got some sort of interest in. Maybe you want to kneecap them, right? And you wouldn't even have to require additional licensure. Just regular ordinances, with regard to electricity use and whatnot. Go in there, chase them down for violations of how their electricity is set up in their warehouse. There's plenty of cruff like that to hobble your competition with. But I really think that they're only going to do that if it's economically feasible. If there's enough incentive to chase them down. If they're not hanging on to like millions of dollars on the side, or they're not doing millions and millions of dollars worth of business, it's not really worth it to go after them. But it like I said, it'll make it worth it to go after bigger hash farms. And I think we're already seeing the precursors of what could be seen as an alt bloom. And I haven't been checking hash charts, but one of these times I'm gonna go on Coin Wars and look at hash, because I think that there's already a GPU drought starting to happen. And I think that's one of the reasons why we're starting to see an appreciation in altcoins, is people want fucking return. They're not going to sell at fucking market price. They're putting their stuff on the sell side of the book, and you're going to have to meet them at the price they're willing to sell at. And honestly, I feel that's the wiser way to go about this. But like I said, I got to check hash charts, but I would be willing to bet that there's been a significant amount of hash coming from GPUs and ASICs and being dedicated to mining altcoins. I mean, this is completely anticipatable. I mean, you could look at it on any chart and kind of see that this would be the way it would need to go. That there is a growing interest in mining. And so, of course, the individual units are becoming more expensive, and so people need to make more ROI so they can afford the next series of fucking GPUs they're going to be putting on the shelves. It's infecting the CPU and GPU market as well as ASIC market. And I mean, I keep pointing my finger at it, but I think that people just don't understand it. That mining is incentivizing the increase in efficiency in all hardware. All hardware. You know, they don't just build those fucking ASIC chips on one little line. Okay, all of the machines that they run those ASIC chips through, those get used whether or not they've got orders for ASIC chips. But they're all the same. They're all the same measurement. So, you know, if we're talking about 7 nanometer chips, you've got an entire production line of maybe 200, 300 steps that are all at specs set for 7 nanometers. Okay, so, and it has to be. And there's only a few of those steps that are interchangeable with other measurements, you know, so other specs. So if they're running a contract for 10 nanometer chipsets, they're not going to be running them on that production line, because all of the machines for laying in the layers and drawing the sketching, etching out the features and stuff on the die, all of that stuff is set for 7 nanometer. It's a spec. It's like a set measurement that everything is set for. You know, if you try to run 5 nanometer shit through there, you're going to get a bunch of misprocessed dies. That's it. If you try and run 10 nanometer through there, the same thing. Okay, so you have to dedicate an entire manufacturing unit to the production of that chipset. Well, you're not just going to do one set of chipsets, because you're not going to consistently have orders for those chipsets, but you can set up your production line to where you're not having to retool for every single chipset, because you're producing only 7 nanometer chipsets on this production line. You'll have to change the features and whatnot, you'll have to change the parameters for your tests, but that's about it. You minimize the changeover. But at the same time, you know, you're going to be running Intel chipsets through there. You're going to be running, if you're like TSMC, you've got contracts to produce these chipsets, but you're going to be doing them all on 7 nanometer. So if you've got an increased demand for things that are in the 3 nanometer range, now that opens the possibility for doing things like 3 nanometer GPU chipsets, 3 nanometer CPU chipsets, you know, VRAM chipsets, all this shit. Okay, RAM chipsets, all of it can go down to that 3 nanometer spec, and any advancements that are brought to that step, or I mean that production line, like maybe there's a power efficiency you do with CPUs that you weren't necessarily doing on your GPU chipsets, but they're from different contractors or whatever. If you're doing this shit in China, you might as well be the same contractor. But if there's this iterative upgrade that you notice from one chipset, you could integrate it into other chipsets. And this is that iterative increase where you're not just seeing advancements in ASICs. Okay, you're seeing them go from 10 nanometers down to 7 nanometers. Right. But they're not the only thing that went from 10 to 7. Okay, Intel's went from 10 to 7. AMD chipsets went from 10 to 7. VRAM chipsets went from 10 to 7. Fucking regular RAM, you know, SD RAM went from 10 to 7. And because of that, SSDs went down from 10 to 7. Because I would be willing to bet if you dug around in an SSD, you would find that they're like 60% RAM chips. You know, we're only 60% efficiency, but they can reliably get 60% efficiency out of it. They just stack a whole shit ton of them together. And so out of 10, 6 of them work at 100% efficiency. Well, bam. There you go. But that's what causes it. Okay, is you end up with stuff that you can't process as RAM or SD RAM or VRAM or whatever, and you make it into SSDs. Right, you repackage it as SSDs, and you're off to the races again. You got another product out of it. But the point being is, again, when things go down to the 5 nanometer range and the 3 nanometer range, which they're already talking about. So we can see this within the next 2 to 3 years. Alright? And I think that we are going to run into a little bit of an issue with regard to supply in the near future. As soon as we start seeing like 30, maybe 40% of the GPU market going up over 4 figures for a fucking GPU, we're going to see some action with regard to the lowering of the price for units. You know, they'll either go to bigger wafers so they can put more die on each wafer, or they are going to go to a bigger manufacturing unit. They're going to be increasing their manufacturing capacity, but there's going to be a little bit of a lag there. And like I said, when you start seeing your top of the line GPUs start hitting that 4-figure mark, about 30 to 40% of them hitting that 4-figure mark, I think that's going to cause some real action with regard to people investing in manufacturing some smaller fucking die, some more efficient shit. And it could be that they lag it just a little bit, like if they had a couple quarters that they didn't make their nut on, you know, that they need to build up enough capital to afford the retooling. You know, and as this goes through the market, this is going to increase the price of coins. You know, I don't care if you're mining Dogecoin. If you're doing it on a fucking GPU and it costs you $300 more per GPU to replace the ones that you currently got on the shelf, you're going to expect more for your motherfucking Dogecoin. That's fucking plain economics. You need to make a higher return in order to make your nut for the next time. And this doesn't end. Okay? This is a game. Each coin is a game. They're in competition with one another, but each miner, each person, just like you that's participating in mining, is competing against the rest of the world. And I think that this dynamism is something that isn't really explored. I mean, it's not really thought about with regard to the perspective that people view cryptocurrencies in. I mean, it's hard enough for people to understand that it's money, that it can be used just like money. But it's also hard to get them to understand it as property. It's also really hard to get them to understand that there is something behind altcoins that give them value, just like Bitcoin. There is something behind Bitcoin that gives it value. It's not some fiat currency. It's not, you know, some head of the central bank waves the magic wand and says Bitcoin is $8,600. No. That's not what makes Bitcoin $8,600. What makes Bitcoin $8,600 is people being willing to pay $8,600 for Bitcoin. And the reason why is because there's at least like $7,500, maybe $6,500 worth of power and effort and hardware going into Bitcoin. The mining of each one. And it's provable. We can look out there and we can test it. We can see where all the hashing power is coming from. We can see how much hashing power, or relatively speaking, how much hashing power is out there on the network live right now. If people don't mine it, it doesn't come into existence. So its very existence proves that somebody fucking mined it. That's the thing that's behind it. That's the value that's behind it, is people believe in it enough to mine it, to compete for it. If they didn't, it would go down in value. Anyway, this next one, I kind of went off on a bit of a tangent there, but again, it's because I don't want to get pegged for like recommending coins or anything like that, or any particular coins. But this one's on Cointelegraph.com. Quote unquote, I'm adding the quotes by the way, quote unquote experts share which altcoins should be watched closely in 2020. And of course, you're going to get the annotated version here. And it doesn't give us a specific author, but it is on Cointelegraph.com. And so here we go. First one is Paolo Arduino, Chief Technology Officer at Bitfinex. Aside from Bitcoin, I follow Ether, Tether, Monero, Tezos, Algorand, and many other tokens listed on Bitfinex. It's important to keep up to date with recent developments. Yes, I agree. Number 2, Mark C. Berniger, fintech investor at Crypto Finance, whoever the fuck they are. Quote, although Libra will probably never be implemented in the originally planned version, the developments there are very relevant for the entire crypto industry. So, I follow the developments there very closely. I'd really like to talk to them about what those are. At the same time, I keep an eye on some interesting altcoins, which are characterized by a solid founder team and a sustainable business case, and therefore have a lot of potential for the future. Let's remember, Amazon's stock plummeted 96% after the dot-com bubble, and has since become one of the most successful companies worldwide. Number 3, Sebastian Borget, co-founder and Chief Operations Officer at The Sandbox, whoever the fuck they are. We are actively looking at all new games with blockchain technology and pre-sales of non-fungible tokens. Of course, we are also closely watching the recent news around Libra, China's involvement into blockchain with digital yuan, the DeFi space with DAI, and how legislation is becoming more open to decentralization. Actually, they don't really have any choice there. It's not theirs to centralize or fuck with to begin with. Number 4, Paul Brody, blockchain lead at Ernst & Young. I watch Ether, but mostly to see that the ecosystem is healthy. Very high prices drive away innovators, and low prices may discourage others. In reality, though blockchain contains the possibility of digital scarcity, that is far from its greatest asset. I hope we will use this technology to bring forward an era of abundance. Yeah, me too, Paul. And the way that's going to happen is by you just, not worrying about it. Just invest. Number 5, David Chaum, founder of Elixir. There are a lot of talented teams taking on important challenge. To be honest, this year my focus has been on building the XX Network team and blockchain. We are really excited about the opportunities for the XX Network and the XX coin in the year ahead. Isn't there an XX coin out there already? Anyway, continuing on. Number 6, Virginia Cram-Martos, CEO of Triangularity. Ether and the possible issuance of central bank digital currencies. Yeah, you're fucking stupid. And continuing on. 7, Eric Crown, Wall Street Trader. I think it's quite clear within this market, except for a few outliers here and there, if Bitcoin doesn't go up, no one is going up. And, in fact, even when Bitcoin goes up, sometimes other people still don't go up. So, I'd say that if you're looking for a cryptocurrency other than Bitcoin, it's pretty much contingent upon Bitcoin's movements to begin with. If Bitcoin is not healthy in 2020, which is starting to shape up to be a little bit more of a reality, as the trends set themselves pretty darn staunchly here, I'd say that except for maybe a few one-offs, I have nothing on my radar. Nothing consistent, really. Yeah, you're not watching. Number 8, John Devados, head of development at Neo. I track and watch Neo. Additionally, I watch the emerging central bank digital currencies. I believe that we will see waves of of both forward-thinking innovation and myopic regulatory roadblocks, both of which will shape the crypto sector. I think you're very wrong there, John. Mostly because I think that people, including politicians, like having money that nobody knows they have. Continuing on. Number 9. Daniel Demers, head of blockchain at PwC. In my role as head of blockchain for EMEA, I have a professional duty to follow many other coins and tokens beyond Bitcoin, and I think this is also what makes the ecosystem so diverse and interesting. Whether you are a big visionary or just have a small idea about some use case, today you can realize both with blockchain and together with the crypto community. One big trend I foresee, for example, is much more lending against cryptocurrencies. In classical capital markets, this is as normal as it gets, but in crypto, it's not in line with the whole mindset. But with efficient transfers on more liquid markets, staking and more classic banks and wealth managers going crypto in 2020, we will see much more of that. On the admittedly a bit dogmatic cryptocurrency purist frontline, I believe 2020 will be very interesting. Much broader, quote, battle of the currencies, central bank issued digital currencies on blockchain versus incumbent cryptocurrencies versus privacy coins versus Libra type ecosystem tokens versus stable coins versus security tokens. I'm super excited to see what all will happen next year. Goddamn right. Number 10, Tim Draper, venture capitalist. Other than Bitcoin, probably Tezos, because they are making huge advances. Things are going very well for them, and there are a lot of interesting engineers doing interesting work to apply to Tezos. I think that's going to be really exciting. Well, Tim, I think we're all going to get a taste of cake and only keep that which we really deserve to begin with. I.e., when we demonstrate our usefulness in the use case that people actually apply the technology to, that will determine the value to that individual. And whether or not that represents a significant enough part of the market to make it worth anybody's while to invest in it, I don't know. But we'll see. Number 11. Adam Fisker, CEO of Wasabi Wallet. I was closely watching some a few years back, but got tired of wasting my time with that. If someone comes up with something valuable, it won't go under my radar, I hope. Well, as long as you're jerking off with Wasabi Wallet, that'll probably be the case. Number 12, Joseph Frank, CEO of the TIE. I focus the vast majority of my time on Bitcoin, as I strongly believe that if Bitcoin does not succeed, the rest of the digital asset market can't. While I don't think it will be a catalyst for upward movement of the crypto market, I am interested in watching developments of internal tokens as rapid 24/7 settlement mechanisms within the largest global banks. Joshua, I think you're kind of jerking yourself off there. I think the largest global banks are going to be replaced by cryptocurrencies that individuals like you and me mine. Continuing on, number 13, Matty Greenspan, founder of quantum economics. He stuffed quantum in there. Though they don't offer much for the average investor, it's certainly worth watching the central banks and their digital currency initiatives. China is leading, of course, and we expect to see a digital yuan launched within the first half of the year. Europe will likely be a close second, and we can expect a digital euro to be developed through 2020. Libra is still in question. More interesting, though, for crypto traders is the current war between the platforms working towards decentralized consumer applications as they vie for positioning and market share. That's probably the best perspective I've heard so far, even though this name quantum economics, it's imaginable with regard to the layering of valuations of coins and stuff. I think I'm sure there's some other way that you can kind of make it apply to cryptocurrencies as they are cryptocurrencies, or I mean they are currencies rather. I can see applying quantum economics to that, but I don't know. I think he's just a little more on it with regard to his perspective. I don't really see CBDCs going anywhere. We've seen only mild success, or at least mild progress, with regard to that space, and that's been mostly with the Petro. I mean, that's been the only one of real note. But what we're not seeing with the Petro is some major adoption of it as people's coin of choice beyond the gun to your head exchange rate that they're being forced to acknowledge or honor rather. And I think that over the longer term, people are going to be looking at that valuation and saying there's no way that this is related to reality in any way, shape, or form. It's more or less a digital version of the Bolivar, and I'm still being fucked in the ass on the exchange rate. So I'm going to go to Dogecoin. Continuing on. 14. Helen High, head of Binance Charity Foundation. Central bank digital currency. Yeah, Helen High is high. Arthur Hayes, CEO of BitMEX. I follow other coins out of pure fascination and curiosity, but with that only, i.e., I don't have any Bitcoin or any other coins. I get paid in fiat. 16. Ivan on Tech, YouTube influencer. Tezos and Cardano. We are adding programming courses for these two platforms to the Ivan on Tech Academy next year, and both have super exciting developments. Ivan, if I would really have to take a look at them, because I can't imagine that. I'm having trouble imagining where Tezos and Cardano are really going to be yielding any real value, but again, it's probably because I haven't investigated either coin with any kind of depth. Just the surface layer on them, as far as like their public image interface, has been enough to kind of put me off. Anyway, continuing on. 17. Sasha Ivanov, founder and CEO of Waves. I don't follow any coins in particular, but rather am following the market in general. I think next year we'll finally start seeing some kind of decoupling. The market in general will have a lower correlation to Bitcoin. I don't think that's the truth. I think that we are going to see Bitcoin appreciate more, but that's only because there's so much more hashing power being dedicated to it and people that much more interested in a return on their investment. However, if the utilization of Bitcoin, or its network rather, as a transfer medium for monetary value, if it cannot fulfill the expectations of the general public, even with Lightning Network, which I don't think it will, they are going to be migrating to other cryptocurrencies. And like I said, I believe there is a GPU drought going on right now, or at least I saw some mild evidence for it today. And if you look at the prices for GPUs out there, you're probably noticing it too. You know, I mean, if you can't get a half decent video card for under like $300, there's something really wrong going on out there. Anyway, continuing on. 18. Christoph Iwanez, yeah, there we go. Chief Financial Officer at Bitwala. We are convinced of Ether because Ethereum opens up a wide range of new possibilities, especially in the field of DeFi. We look with interest at DeFi projects like MakerDAO from the Ethereum community. Hey, that's really neat. Ethereum is really neat, but if there's a platform that is doing it better, you can expect a transfer of interest and monetary value to it. Continuing on, number 19, John Jeffries, CFA at CipherTrace, whoever the fuck they are. I watched Libra, Digital Yuan, Crypto Real, ETH, BNB, EOS, Ripple, and Tether, i.e. all of the shit that isn't really cryptocurrencies. I watch privacy coins quite closely, including Monero, Zcash, and Dash, Bitcoin projects Snowball and Lightning, Decred, the Ethereum Aztec protocol, Grin, Beam, and Litecoin. That's pretty diverse, John. Yeah, continuing on. 20. Tao Cole, co-founder of Orbs. I would like to have the industry showcase use cases in production that solve everyday problems and are relevant. Specifically, I hope to showcase how blockchain is relevant for the 2020 elections. In November, we were honored to be one of the few projects presenting to the Congressional Blockchain Caucus at the Blockchain on the Hill event organized by Global Blockchain Business Council. The event came at the request of members of Congress who wanted to hear about the use cases aside from cryptocurrencies and financials. The use case we presented was the blockchain-based solution for digital content authentication, a solution that can help with copyright protection, but equally interesting, fighting fake users and fake content. Yeah, that's not going to help. Number 21, Sanjay Khan, Vice President of Global Partnerships at Utrust. Aside from Bitcoin, BTC, I obviously follow Utrust's native token, UTK, very closely, as well as Ether and the major coins based on liquidity. Utrust integrated Dash, a top digital currency for payments and e-commerce, and Digibyte on the platform this year. These are two coins I'm really excited to follow and see how they progress in 2020. With thousands of coins listed on CoinMarketCap, it's impossible to follow every coin, but I love learning about new projects and like to stay up to date on market movements on a daily basis. Well, Sanja, that's a very good perspective to have. Continuing on. Although I don't know shit about Utrust's native token, UTK, yeah, whatever. I mean, if you believe in it, you go, girl. Number 22, Jonathan Levin, co-founder and chief security officer of Chainalysis. Libra is interesting because of its reach and potential. We will continue to watch that closely. We also keep an eye on innovation competitions, research papers, and proof of concepts on state-issued digital currencies, i.e., I am a pussy, and I stick with only safe stuff. Yeah, continuing on. Number 23, Evan Luthra, serial tech entrepreneur, founder of Startup Studio.online and Ioko.io. The most anticipated currency today is the digital yuan. Given China's leading position in the global economy, this will be a significant step in changing the financial system. The Chinese authorities are actively introducing many modern technologies into the everyday life of their citizens, like an elephant dildo, so it can be expected that at least within the country, the crypto yuan will quickly spread in accordance with the country's plans. No, it won't. And for the rest of the countries, 2020 should be the year of the release of their own digital currencies, but most likely they will appear only after crypto yuan. I'm not a trader, but I do keep on a lookout on some of my recent major investments, such as vid.camera, gi.brain, dreamer.app, and some others. Evan, I think you're going to be very disappointed with regard to the crypto yuan. The fact of the matter is that the Chinese government is going to use it in conjunction with their social monitoring program and scoring program. And as soon as they start implementing their plans as they've intended to do through the crypto yuan, they're going to show why the crypto yuan sucks ass by comparison to publicly mined cryptocurrencies. And when they do, you're going to see that reflected in the market. And I don't give a fuck if it's a CBDC. I don't care if the fucking Chinese government has a gun to every single Chinese citizen's head trying to force them to use the shit. People want fucking return. And they want return that only they know about. If it's possible for them to know about digital returns and nobody else knowing about it, they're going to fucking invest in it. That's all there is to it, kids. And so, I think that when governments try to implement their policies on their CBDCs, they're going to find out that the confidence is lacking in the public's mind with regard to the viability and the desirability of having their every transaction scrutinized and recorded for all time and held against them in fucking court and by the IRS. And they're just going to say no. Say no. They will take your CBDCs and they will invest them in coins that do not track their fucking users. That's all. And we can dance all around. I mean, even if I had somebody on here who was issuing a CBDC or whatever, and like I was interviewing them and whatnot, I would tell them the same fucking thing. We've seen plenty of actions by plenty of entities in the cryptocurrency space already trying to dictate to the rest of the market how their coins should be valued. And we have seen when the market tests the viability of these coins at that price, we've seen that the market says, no, your valuation is built on bullshit, and I'm not going to value the coin at that. I'm going to sell it for a lot cheaper, or I'm going to buy it for a lot cheaper because I think I'm getting ripped off at the price you're asking me for. And that, my friends, is the invisible hand at work. And it won't matter whether or not you're a stablecoin. In the longer term, I think we're going to find out that stablecoins are nothing but a fraudulent scheme. They don't really have the coins that they, or at least the money that they claim to have, and they will get caught out. These big-ass parabolic spikes, they're going to continue to happen on coins because people want fucking return. And they're either buying in low or they're selling out high. But they're going to be trying to get return. And in order for them to do that, there has to be a low and there has to be a high. Continuing on. 24, Alex Mashinsky, CEO of Celsius. I like ETH, EOS, and of course CEL. There are a lot of interesting tokens, but the question is, do they reward users in the form of yield? Yes, my friend. Yes, Alex. Yield. We think those tokens and DeFi projects that prioritize holders and users will be thriving in 10 years' time. Goddamn Skippy. 25. John McAfee, cryptocurrency entrepreneur. That would be my own token, Whacked. I mean, listen, Whacked is the token of fucking tokens. I mean, for example, every transaction, no matter what the amount, 10% of that transaction is sent to the burn address. It just goes up in vapor. It doesn't go to anybody. And one in every 1,000 transactions, no matter how important it is to you or how much is involved, the whole fucking thing is burned. And it's like you can be whacked, which happens statistically to 1 out of 1,000 people. As hard as that is to believe, now we have the whacked token. You want to get out there and play in the real fucking world? Buy whacked. You're sure to lose eventually everything you have. That's my prediction for 2020. Hey, but you know what? You got to value the rest of the opinions on here by the fact that they did put McAfee in at number 25. And so number 26 is Nicholas Morton, founder of YouTube channel Data Dash. For me, I'm really interested to see whether or not central banks will create digital currency, basically dollars on public blockchains like Ethereum. If they do this, it would be a massive sign that crypto is here to stay and that central banks do not want to be left behind. The European Central Bank seems to be taking the lead on this forefront. Yeah, and I think their CBDC will only be used to further dilute the market. And when people find that it's impacting their ability to make a return on their coins, they're not going to exchange their coins for the fucking CBDCs. Continuing on. Number 27, Diego Monica, co-founder and president of Anchorage. Cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin have found a strong use case as stores of value, but the world is still waiting for a cryptocurrency that achieves massive scale adoption as a medium of exchange. Both as a founding member of the Libra Association and as a custodian working to support all assets that meet our standards of quality and security, we're looking forward to the many cryptocurrencies slated to launch in 2020. Yeah, I think all of the ones that aren't associated with a central bank will be interesting. All of the ones that are tied to a central bank or one of their things or just some fucking butt token, if it doesn't have public miners, I don't think it'll be worth a shit. Continuing on, number 28, Samson Mao, Chief Strategy Officer of Blockstream. I've kept a close eye on Libra this year, simply because it was a spectacular failure to watch. Also, I find central bank crypto tokens interesting as, depending on how they are designed, they could compete with stablecoins, i.e. they could compete with counterfeit fiat. Number 29, and you know, how long is this fucking list? You know, I'm not going to go through all of this. There's a lot more to it, and I need a break. But we'll read the last one. Alexander Zadelson, CEO of Beam, is number 44. I closely watch the developments in the privacy space. Zcash, Monero, Grin, and of course Beam. Oh gosh, no mention of Verge. Probably because it actually does privacy. Anyway, so yeah, there you have it. A lot of different people weighing in about a lot of different coins. And I don't actually see Verge mentioned in any of them. It's very interesting. You know, and it is funny to see which ones they are pimping, though. They're all pimping Libra. Almost every single one of them mentions Libra. I don't think Libra will make shit. I don't think it's going to launch. I think if it does launch, it's going to be nothing but a butt token based on a basket of butt tokens. You know, so, I mean, that shows you how much value I put in it. I think that the real winners over the longer term are going to be the ones that are mined by you, because you are the market. Without you, none of this shit means anything. It doesn't mean anything just because you've got a Facebook account, unless of course you're being paid based on the amount of ads that they're managing to stuff in your face. You know, if they're staking you coins because they can stuff ads in your face, okay. You know, they're paying you to look at the ads on their website, but you know, you and 2.4 billion other users are doing the same fucking thing. So I can't imagine that the exchange rate for that is going to be worth a shit on the open market. I could be wrong, though. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw down with some music. And as far as where to go, let's see here. This is what I've got to say to all of the quote-unquote crypto experts that we were mentioning. And by the way, I don't regard any of the people that we read their reviews and their opinions, I don't regard them as experts. I believe they are people with opinions. Whether or not they're valid opinions, whether or not they are observant or even knowledgeable about the cryptocurrency space, that remains to be seen. But it hasn't yet, and certainly not by me. And so the first song I got here is Dope, Fuck the World, here on Coin Metal. That was Surprise You're Dead by Faith No More. I would have let it run because it's fucking Helmet, but you gotta stick to some time parameters on here. So, we limit it to the number of songs that we got, and that's just what we do. Anywho, I find it really interesting that we're finding all these references to Libra. I mean, really, I'm looking through this. There's 35 supposed experts here. No, I'm sorry, 45 or 44 rather. And I see all these mentions of Libra. The fact of the matter is we haven't really seen anything out of Libra yet. A little bit of talk here and there, a little bit of chatter back and forth, but nothing really material yet. However, we are seeing some stuff with regard to some Bitcoin derivatives. And I find that slightly more interesting, although I think that people are just as likely to get wrecked in derivatives as they are to be wrecked in the real coins. Because at some point or another, there's going to become, it's going to become obvious who's floating fractional reserves of Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies. And I think that is going to be something that happens in the not so distant future. Especially with regard to the fact that it's going to get more expensive to mine, as we were talking about with the prices of GPUs going up. And that I think that more people are going to get into mining. And so this, and not just mining Bitcoin, mining altcoins in general. And that this dynamism is going to create more value on the mining side of cryptocurrency. And so the price in relative in fiat currencies and whatnot is going to go up. It is going to go up. Which ones? I have no fucking idea. But even crypto derivatives are going to get impacted. And so, right here, it's theblockcrypto.com. CME tops Bact's reported Bitcoin options volumes in one day. And this is on January 13th, 2020 at 5:46 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And this is by Frank Chaparro. So yes, penis. Chicago-based derivatives exchange CME Group kicked off trading for its Bitcoin option on Monday by trouncing its rival, the Intercontinental Exchange-owned Bact. CME Group has traded 55 contracts worth about 275 Bitcoin or $2.1 million in its new Bitcoin option, according to a spokeswoman. The launch of the product followed Bact's Bitcoin options rollout, which has been less successful on a relative basis. Bact has traded slightly more than $1 million of Bitcoin for its options contract since its December 9th launch. Bact has not yet reported its volumes for Monday. Tim McCourt, managing director at CME Group, told The Block in a phone interview that he was satisfied with the first day of trading, noting a balance between smaller on-screen trades and block trades. He also said feedback from market participants was quote-unquote great. In terms of their ability to quote the market, consume the data, all technical aspects, he said, everything worked as designed. Still, it's early days for the market, and it's likely anyone's game to win at this point. Market observers will remember that CME's crosstown rival, CBOE Global Markets, was first to launch Bitcoin futures in December 2019, but ultimately announced they would stop offering the product. Elsewhere, crypto native firms have seen even more success in the rollout of options compared to U.S. regulated venues. FTX saw 2,000 options traded on the firm's first day of offering the Bitcoin-tied product, co-founder Sam Bankman-Fried told the block in a phone interview. Bankman-Fried described it as the firm's most active product launch, maybe ever. Indeed, these developments illustrate the emergence of a more robust and competitive exchange-listed derivatives market, which up until this point has been dominated by firms like BitMEX and Durbit. So yeah, we are starting to see a little bit of transfer as far as the interest of derivatives products, but I've never seen. I don't really know that there's an excessive amount of demand for them, honestly. I mean, in realistic terms, there's probably more volume in Litecoin traded today than these derivatives. So what they represent as far as the overall interest in cryptocurrencies, I think is tiny. And I mean, it may increase, if they're able to reliably make some sort of return for their investors, there's going to be greater interest shifted to them. But I think that, as with all things in crypto, the best way to make money on them is to own them. And not just Bitcoin, others too. And of course to trade them against one another. That's like the best way to profit, other than of course mining them. But in any case, the ownership and the being able to float that monetary value between vehicles is very, very lucrative, or at least it can be. I'm not going to make any promises there. A lot of people get wrecked. They're, high yield, high loss. It's all there is to it. But I would like to point out one thing about the volatility with regard to Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, with regard to their trading pair with the U.S. dollar. I think that you've got to keep in mind that these cryptocurrencies are issued on a time basis. So like roughly every 10 minutes, there's 12.5 Bitcoin that are issued. So when you're looking at volatility, you're not seeing something that's necessarily a reflection of supply, because the available supply is coming online, or coming into existence rather. Whether it's actually traded or not is a whole different story. But it's coming into existence at a deterministic rate. Same thing with any other cryptocurrency. And so what volatility you do see is an exchange of interest. And it also has to do with the issuance of the other currency in the exchange rate. When you're looking at Bitcoin versus US dollars, you're actually looking at an exchange rate. It's not a quote-unquote price, it's an exchange rate. You've got one Bitcoin on one side, and then $84.96, or $8,496 on the other side on the exchange rate. That's what it is. People are willing to give about roughly $8,500 for one Bitcoin. Anyway, continuing on. But I did want to get into this last thing because this is one of those relative terms of value, but I didn't want to talk about it at first, only because BSV has been pumping, and there's always the stain that they're going to have in the fact that they were at one time associated with this person, and this person did make a lot of claims on their behalf. But it's important to note this anyway. So this is on Cointelegraph. It's by Jack Martin. So yes, penis. And roughly, I want to say it was 19 hours ago, but let's go ahead and refresh this bad boy. Yeah, 19 hours ago. Excellent. U.S. judge rules that Craig Wright won't forfeit Bitcoin in Kleeman case. I would assert that he never had them. A United States district judge has ruled that a previous sanction ordering Craig Wright to give up half of his Bitcoin to the estate of Dave Kleeman will not stand. U.S. Magistrate Judge Bruce Reinhardt's delivered the sanction ruling last August in the long-standing court battle over an alleged 1.1 million bitcoins, which were mined by Wright and Kleeman in partnership in the early days of Bitcoin. Shortly after Wright claims he invented it. Shortly after the big. According to the court documents filed with a U.S. District Court in Florida on January 10th, Judge Beth Bloom ruled that Reinhardt's earlier sanction order was not proper. Spurious claims earned Wright a hefty fine. As Cointelegraph reported in August 2019, Reinhardt ruled that Wright had perjured himself by presenting falsified documents and recommended that he hand over 50% of the over 1 million Bitcoin he allegedly mined with Kleeman. However, the latest ruling states that this sanction was not proper, as the deemed facts that Wright had an equal partnership with Kleeman do not specifically relate to the discovery issue, a list of Wright's Bitcoin holdings. Moreover, even if the court did accept the deemed facts, this discovery abuse would remain uncured, as the court still does not know how much Bitcoin Wright owns. Judge Bloom did conclude, however, that Wright had not made a good faith effort to comply with discovery orders and should still pay the Kleeman estate attorney's fees. The Kleeman estate filed a motion requesting legal costs of $658,000 in November last year. This led Wright to immediately respond with a counter motion asking for this to be thrown out, as both the hours worked and the hourly rate were unreasonable. A mysterious courier to shine a light on Bitcoin holdings. Wright is not off the hook regarding the Bitcoin yet, though. The judge ordered that Wright has until February 3rd, 2019 to inform the court if a, quote, mysterious bonded courier arrives with the final key slice so that he can access his Bitcoin holdings. The judge questioned the plausibility of Wright's previous assertion that this courier would deliver the slice by January 2020. However, she did say that the court should indulge him the opportunity. Okay, so this is yet another challenge that Wright has set for himself. Now, whether or not he can actually fulfill on it, I'm dubious. I do not believe he will. Only because he has yet to deliver on most of the things that he's promised to deliver. You know, he makes a promise and then he delivers some sort of quote-unquote evidence that we find out later is like a plagiarism of a whole bunch of other shit, or it's like an edited PGP key, or something to that effect, that we find out that it's either potentially bogus or it is outright bogus. And so this claim that he is Satoshi Nakamoto and he has access to the 1 million Bitcoin, I do not believe will ever be founded in reality. That we will never find out. Because, in fact, He can't. I think if he could, he would have at least moved the coins to demonstrate that he could move the coins and avoided all this kerfuffle. But instead, he's kept whacking himself and us off with it. But as I have just enough time to do it, I'm going to throw this one down. It's on Forbes.com. Trader alert. Bitcoin's Iran crisis rally extends to altcoins. And this is by Clem Chambers, contributor, Intelligent Investing Contributor Group. So yes, at least one penis. On Friday, January 3rd, I wrote that Bitcoin was likely to moon because of the developing Iranian situation. Bitcoin has risen $1,000 a coin since then. It is, however, easy to forget the altcoins. When Bitcoin goes up, the altcoins follow. Altcoins are lashed to Bitcoin by exchanges, and they move in relation to the dollar in line, but not exactly with Bitcoin. When Bitcoin rallies, so do altcoins, but some underperform and others overperform. My basic premise for predicting this rally is, number one, Bitcoin is a safe haven asset. To repeat a cliche, Bitcoin is the new gold. Number two, Iranians will want to get into Bitcoin as tensions rise. Number three, speculators will want to trade Bitcoin in a crisis because it has more beta volatility, quote, pop than gold or oil. So you trade that for maximum situation volatility instead of slow gold or oil. Number four, anyone wanting to hedge their stocks might use the roughly 5x hedging beta of Bitcoin to cover their equities in a crisis situation. By my ready reckoning, currently $1 of Bitcoin gives you about $5 of equity downside hedge. That's very cheap and compelling. But Bitcoin is not the only game in town. This is the performance of the big high privacy coin Monero, Bitcoin, and upstart Bitcoin Cash. You can see that, and it gives us a nice little chart here. And it says, let's see, you can see that Bitcoin Cash and Monero have even bigger beta than Bitcoin. For maximum impact, it is the altcoins that can deliver the maximum return in the high-risk trading game. It is truly fascinating that the ultra-privacy coin Monero takes off early alongside oil and gold, but that Bitcoin lags a few hours. You can come up with your own conclusions on that one. I would put that down to two different audiences reacting to the news in different time zones. Whatever the reason, you can see that Monero is the winner, and you can judge that it is the privacy aspects of the coin that gives it the extra punch, as there are most certainly big money players who will want extreme secrecy when using crypto as a hedge or a haven. This US/Iran conflict is not going to go away. As such, there is a strong catalyst underpinning crypto for many months to come. The more dire an investor's prognosis for what happens next, the more Bitcoin they should hold, because the worse the developments, the higher Bitcoin and altcoins will rise. In any event, what is clearly established is that Bitcoin is a financial instrument that reacts to world events, and that in itself is an extremely powerful use case, no less than any valuable futures derivative contract that trades in the billions of dollars of value between parties wishing to swap risks. And Clem Chambers is the CEO of private investors website, advfn.com. Okay, cool. So yeah, that's an interesting perspective. And I think that we are going to see exactly that. You know, there's some exceptions with regard to cryptocurrencies and taxation and stuff. And I think that the more that people use cryptocurrencies in like the retail segment of the market, I think the more we are going to see this beta leverage versus fiat currencies, and funds and securities and whatnot that are denominated in fiat currencies. And I think this perspective that we're going to get this value transfer equal over to CBDCs and shit like that. I think that expectation is a little silly. I think what's going to end up happening is that there's going to be a great depreciation in these CBDCs versus publicly mined cryptocurrencies. And the resulting factor will be one of two things. Either the CBDCs will have a basket that they evaluate their coins by that consists solely of cryptocurrencies, and a basket of them, not just a single one. Or what's more likely is that they'll give up on the idea and they will play the game with the rest of us. I would be willing to bet that that's already happening on the central bank level, that they are already participating in the purchase and trade of cryptocurrencies, both against fiat currencies in the open market and altcoins, both in private markets and in public markets. It's a mind virus, and it doesn't just apply to people that are already in cryptocurrencies. The allure is return. And not just return, but the stability and retention of one's monetary value. If you bust your ass, you want to retain as much of your monetary value as possible. And you want the ability to utilize it in the most intelligent way possible, i.e. the least friction way possible. And intrinsically, this is an exchange of altcoins or Bitcoin for retail items, or items on a retail basis, or even services on a retail basis, i.e. using cryptocurrencies as currency. And like I said, I think we are going to be seeing a little bit more of that, and I don't believe that it'll be restricted to Bitcoin. Just watch your Twitter feed. You'll be seeing it in the FUD. And it is with that I'd like to close out this episode. Thank you very much for listening. I certainly appreciate the support. We will be back again on Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And so until then, I want y'all to trade safe. Do your homework. And watch out for your own bunghole, because nobody else is going to do it for you. And so as far as our last dance is concerned, I have not picked anything out. But I haven't played anything by Vola. And so here it is, the same war. Last Dance here on Coin Metal. Thank you again for listening, and y'all have an excellent evening. Good night.